Why I wrote Radical Self-Respect. Avoid falling for the same BS. I was listening to a Jordan Peterson lecture today, and he was mentioning before we write anything, we have to have a problem. And it has to be a problem that bothers us, or why bloody write the damn thing at all? And he's absolutely correct. And the problem that was bothering me was how I had disrespected myself so much in my own life and allowed others to treat me as I treated myself, which was very poorly. And I look around and I see so many people struggling with the exact same thing, unnecessarily. And the kinds of people that I think really would benefit from this book are people who have struggled with codependency, struggled with mental illness or addiction, people who have been people pleasers, people who have had weak boundaries, people who have just had a breakup or have been the survivor of some form of abuse. And don't get it wrong. I know one of the symptoms of being abused is not knowing you're being abused. So people don't even realize what's going on. And that was the case for me too, absolutely. When I was with some people who had personality disorders, such as covert narcissists, I did not realize the phases of love bombing, devaluing, and discarding. I didn't realize that was abuse. And it wasn't until later that I had found it out. But I'm glad that those things happened to me now, because in particular with the woman, the female covert narcissist, if it was not for her, I never would have wrote this book. So I wrote this book to help myself and to help others to radically respect themselves. I heard a quote once, and I don't remember who said it, but it said anyone who's giving suggestions or advice is really just talking to a younger version of themselves. And I think that's absolutely correct. If I could talk and say anything to my 18-year-old self, I would say what the contents of this book are. Now granted, it's because I didn't know what I know now that I experienced all of the things necessary to create this book. So I'm always very hesitant in wishing things were different. I'm glad things happened the way they did, because it was because of the painful experiences I've gone through that here I am today. The calm sea never made a skilled sailor. And I wanted to do something to try to promote some positive change. Because if people pay attention to what I write and act on it, most importantly, their lives can be completely changed. And it starts with us. It starts with how we treat ourselves. It starts with our mindset. And then it goes out from there. And I think the cool thing about radical self-respect is we have the power to do it. It's in no one else's hands to radically respect ourselves except for us. It's up to us. That's it. We are in complete power to do it. That's the really cool thing about it to me. We don't need to rely on anyone to radically respect ourselves. It can be our mode of being. And granted, it's not going to be something that happens overnight. It's something that has to be developed. We have to learn the new skill, because certainly if we are not used to practicing radical self-respect, it will be hard. It'll be foreign to us. It'll be alien, and we'll feel really uncomfortable doing so. But once we begin to do so, we practice, and we get a little jiggy with it, and then it can become second nature. But just like with any new skill, it's really difficult to learn something, especially when it's something that we've been programmed not to do. It can be really difficult. And what's the cool thing about learning new things is, the fear of doing new things is really just the fear of making mistakes in front of others and being a beginner. And the more okay we are with that fear, the more we will be able to grow. So there are no downsides to practicing radical self-respect. We will show up differently in all of our relationships, and we will force others to show up differently too. Or we'll cut them off, right? People will come to meet us at our best, and hopefully at their best too, or not at all. That's the cool thing about this, where when we practice radical self-respect, it'll be good for everyone in our lives in some form or another, because our truest value to others is being the best version of ourselves, not some people-pleasing weakling, not a codependent, not a doormat, not some harmless rabbit. No, that's not our best value. Our best value is to practice radical self-respect, to integrate the dark side of our personality, the shadow, with the more harmless side, and integrate it so we become useful. Dangerously useful, is what Jordan Peterson would say. And he's absolutely correct. Because if we're not dangerously useful, we're going to be naive. And life is going to kick the crap out of us. And I know this because it's absolutely happened to me. Life has kicked the crap out of me. Absolutely. But with the power of learning how to radically respect myself, slowly but surely, that's not the case anymore. I've become toughened up by my experiences, and hopefully people can learn from what I've had to go through, and then maybe they won't have to go through the same things. And maybe, though, they'll also have to go through different things, because the struggles are what makes us great. The struggles is what turns us into great people. And so I don't think the right thing to do is to avoid struggles. But when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And if you happen to be lucky enough to stumble across this book, it means that you're ready for the principles in this book. It means that you're ready and you can start practicing radical self-respect. You're ready to learn. And then you're ready to start doing different things. That's the cool thing. So I wrote this book for those reasons. I wrote this book because I didn't realize I had the power for a long time to live life differently. I didn't realize I had the power to communicate to others how I wanted to be treated. I didn't realize I had the power to assertively enforce boundaries. I didn't realize that if I was constantly being mistreated, I was cooperating with the treatment. I did not realize any of these things. And it seems so obvious now, but I had no idea. And so that's why I wrote this book. Radical Self-Respect, Avoid Falling for the Same BS. And I'm really thinking about uploading this thing tomorrow. I just did my formatting, the table of contents, the dedicated to, and the acknowledgments. And it's it. It's here. So I'm thinking about uploading it tomorrow to Amazon. And all of the reviews I can get on this book would certainly be amazing. I know that helps with Amazon sales, etc. And if anyone wants to do coaching with me on learning how to practice radical self-respect, I would be more than happy to help with that as well. And this, practicing radical self-respect, affects every area of life. That's the cool thing about it. And when we practice it in one area, it will bleed into all the rest of the areas of our life. Neil Strauss said, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So let's make sure that we don't gloss over anything. Let's make sure that we pay attention to all the areas and kick its ass. Let's rock and roll and practice radical self-respect. So with that, I'm super excited to get this book out to you all. And thank you all so much, the people who have been watching this channel and supporting me along the way. I've been very grateful to have the audience and someone to listen. So that's been really cool. So with that, thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for Radical Self-Respect on Amazon. And I'd love those reviews. So with that, over and out.